This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are proud to bring you Justice Unfiltered. Real conversations with real people from every side of the justice system. From the latest in law and order to the voices of those impacted, changed, and working to make a difference. This is where truth meets transformation. Now, it's time for Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Cowart from the Morning Extra. Here on Extra 106.3, our guest today, Vernon Jones, public servant, candidate for Georgia's Secretary of State position. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for taking the time to come in.
Thank you, Tug. Thank you for having me on and to be here to unfilter justice for a moment.
Right.
I'm enjoying it. My friend Daniel on here.
Looking so sharp over there. You and I look like we're going out to lunch.
No.
This guy looks like he's going to something serious.
No,
I wanted to get a first chance to get a second chance, okay?
That's
I'm
right.
here to get a first chance to get a second chance.
He can do it. He can do it. That's what I hear.
Second chance bonding.
That's
second
right.
chance bonding.
That's what I hear. Dude, you've done so much, decades in local and state leadership, been the county executive, DeKalb County CEO, member of the Georgia House of Representatives. Reputation for being engaging in neighborhoods and grounded in community interaction. Long career, been defined by hands-on approach to public service and support for law enforcement and safe communities. That's just natural to you, I have a feeling. I just in the little bit of time that we've met, it's so clear that that's who you are.
Well, Tug, if you understand my background, born and reared in the South, small country town. Where
are you from?
North Carolina, Laurel Hill.
All right.
My town is so small, everybody knows who check is good and who husband ain't. That kind of small town. But people just friendly, engaging. So this is my personality. But public service, obviously, I take it very seriously. It's always been something that I saw as a higher calling. It's about sacrifice. You don't make money on it, but you enjoy doing what you do. And anytime I can make a difference in people's lives, from children to working class families to seniors, to small businesses, law enforcement. I mean, what greater honor than to serve people like that, to make things better for them.
Not a bigger one that I can tell. Daniel, that's kind of what you do too, right? You give people the chance to clear their name, give people the chance to not be, stuck in a jailhouse
Get
while
back
they're
on track.
Absolutely, which is what you do.
Yeah,
serving the local community, being engaging. How do y'all know one another? Because Daniel seems to know everybody. He's like the mayor over there. No wonder he's dressed the way he is.
I am not. That is not true. That is not
okay.
true.
Well, all I'm saying is there's not a soul that this dude's
He's
going
an
to
unofficial mayor. He's an unofficial mayor.
Yeah.
Daniel gave me a second chance. That's how I know him. He gave me a second chance. No.
Do tell.
It's one of the good things is you hear people talk about friendships and relationships, but everything is relationship driven.
Of course it is.
And so Daniel and I have mutual friends, good friends, and they would say, look, you need to meet Daniel. And they told Daniel, you need to meet Vernon. And of course, Daniel is very supportive of in public service as well, not as an elected official, but he likes to support good government. He likes to support those who are doing good jobs. And he's in a unique position, his business. But there's a great need for that, and I think the community recognizes him and his leadership and what he gives back to the community as well. And so we met through those circles, and we've been friends ever since. We just there's a phrase we use: good people.
Yeah,
Daniel's just good people.
Amen to that. And I've learned that about him too. So it's always good when you have
and the same goes for VJ. I smile every time. Every time I see him, I have a good time. I tell people, you can be mad at VJ or sad or whatever, happy. Every time I see him, I smile and I have a good time. And he's been a good friend to me. So
good time just tags along.
Even at funerals, we have a good time at funerals.
That's right. We
find a way to smile.
But don't split the pole.
That's the place you're supposed to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, celebrating folks. Do
Yeah.
it with a smile, man.
That's right.
Remember them the right way instead of crying about it, man.
That's right.
We're gonna remember the good times we had and the things that we did together and the things that are most important that will live on in our memories forever. What were some of the first things y'all worked on together? Do you recall?
Well, you look at what's happening now with bail reform. It's kind of interesting. These cashless bails. You're seeing where you know, people are, you know, we always believe people are innocent until proven guilty.
Sure.
But when you don't go through that process where you hold people accountable, it becomes a problem. That's why you see happening now where they, in a lot of these major cities, they got so liberal and lax with their laws. And obviously, Daniel's a business person, but bail reform is good if it's done right, where people still are held accountable. And so we cross lines like that. We're very supportive of law enforcement. That's a big deal.
Sure it is.
Law enforcement back in the blue is important. And you know, we always look at them protecting us, but we have to protect them too.
That's right.
And just with the attack now on law enforcement, it has gone beyond the charts. I cannot believe now, even when you look at our law enforcement officers, ICE, how they're being doxxed.
Oh, my goodness.
How, you know, their families are at jeopardy. They're literally posting their addresses and pictures of them and pictures of their kids because they're out there just doing their jobs. And so Daniel and I cross lines on back in the blue.
Yeah, and Daniel, that's another thing that is, it just seems to be out of control, to Vernon's point. A super thankless job to begin with, but then being afraid to go to work because of something that might happen to your family.
Oh, yeah.
That's next level. That's something that
Scary.
I never thought I would see in the United States of America.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Look, I don't know how legally you address that, and maybe y'all can help me understand it. How legally do we address that? How should we address that with people doing the things that you're talking about, BJ?
Well, it's very simple, and it really doesn't take passing legislation because it's already against the law to attack a law enforcement officer. There are fines and penalties for it. But when you see governments where they have these zones or these areas where you're not allowed to enforce the law as it relates, let's say, to illegal immigration, where we have these sanctuary cities, it's sanctioned by the government. The government tells their law enforcement agencies, their police department, not to work with ICE, not to report to them when an alleged immigrant has been arrested and in the hands of the courts. You saw the judge. There's a judge that was recently convicted.
Hannah Dugan is her
Hannah
name.
Dugan. Here she is helping illegal. She knows that ICE is there. She lies to ICE and tell ICE one thing when in fact she did slip this immigrant
Out the side door.
out the side door. Well, you don't need a law to fix that. That's just common sense.
She's now a felon.
She's now a felon. And so these sanctuary cities are really hurting law enforcement agencies because they're not working with ICE and others. Because remember now, it's so funny, I was looking at the news the other day, Abby Phillips on CNN, she said it's not against the law to come over here illegally. Wait a minute, what do you mean it's not against the law to come over illegally?
It's in
well,
the
they
title.
didn't commit a crime. Well, yeah, you commit a crime when you cross the borders illegally. She said, well, it's not a criminal, it's civil. No, it's criminal. What makes it criminal, you broke the law. It was a federal law, so you could be subject to a fine and or in prison. What makes it civil is if you come over here and you get the visa to come over here the right way, and it expires, you don't go home, then it's a civil case. But the fact of it is, when you come across the border illegal, you're illegal. And so when you have illegals that are here illegal and you don't want to report them because you don't want them to be deported, well, that's just, you're not following the law. Let one of us, they talk about separating families. You get caught driving DUI with your kids in the car.
Your family
you're
gets
going to get
separated.
separated from your family. Or I tell you, you get convicted and you go to jail, you're going to be separated from your family.
That's right.
So it's when you look at what are internally based on politics, based on derangement, because really Trump derangement, because Obama
runs rampant.
Obama deported more than Trump, and they didn't have those issues. So it's common sense.
It tries to pull at your heartstrings, and I'm very understanding of why people want to come to the United States. Sure. I understand also that we can't. I mean, everybody can't come. Sure. I mean, it's just physically it can't happen. But I'm even sympathetic to why people want to come here. A friend of mine's family is Cuban. They came the right way. He's one of my dearest friends. And I tell you, the dude that despises illegal immigration more than anybody is him. He can't stand it. He's like, my family came and did it the right way. How come you get to go to the front of the line?
Yeah, because he's upset because he stood in line. He made the sacrifice. He gave up the time waiting to come over here illegally. And these other guys can come and jump ahead of him, come over illegally, get a hotel room, get a cash card, get free education, get free medical. And they came over illegally. They broke the law. So what are we saying? You're rewarded by breaking the law, not by following the law.
No, it's just as backwards as it can possibly be. Daniel, have you dealt with any of that kind of stuff over at A Second Chance?
What, immigration?
Yeah.
Oh, over the last 20 years, yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the time. I mean, immigration's definitely a thing. And look, the laws have changed over time, right, on the state side and, as far as what we can and can't do and, things like that. So, but it's definitely, we definitely deal with the families and deportation and all that stuff.
Working with local municipalities. What about the federal folks?
And on the the federal side too, yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Because we just have to track, we have to track them basically. So once a deportation, once an alien number has been assigned, then we then are tracking at that point.
Yeah.
Is that a more delicate bond to issue?
Well, there's immigration bonds which are completely separate from actual state level bonds that the normal stuff that we do on a regular basis.
How do they differ? What's the difference?
Well, it's based on their immigration status, so it's a federal immigration bond. It's not. It's a completely separate bond that they're getting. So if they commit a crime, they might have to clear one bond on the state level case, and then they will be released if there's a hold for ICE, and then ICE will then set an immigration bond. So then now it's two bonds really, but two completely separate issues. So I mean, the two have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, and remember, you're talking about if it's an illegal, that the feds all of a sudden is involved at that point. And do you let a guy out on bond who's already legal when you say, okay, come back to court? So the feds want to track him. They may even deport him, but they have their set of rules and how they do things. And so what Daniel's organization does is just make sure they follow whatever the state and federal rules and regs are, because they are the bonding agent, and they have to protect their business and not do anything illegally.
This is Justice Unfiltered. Our guest, Vernon Jones, who's running for Georgia Secretary of State. We'll talk about that along with Daniel Matalon, the CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. More with Vernon Jones next on Extra 106.3.
This is Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon, who is the CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Vernon Jones is our guest today, and Vernon's done so much. The DeKalb County CEO, member of the Georgia House of Representatives, and today running for Republican primary to be Georgia's next Secretary of State. Lord, if there's a job in the state of Georgia that needs some help, it's the Secretary of State's job. Vernon, what made you decide maybe that's the reason. What made you decide to put your name in the ring for Secretary of State?
Well, first of all, if you go back to 2020, and I'm certainly not trying to relive 2020, but we want to make sure it doesn't repeat itself. The public trust has been lost as it relates to elections in Georgia. It's plummeted. Now, if you listen to the liberal media, they may say different because they're trying to sweep it under the rug. But, for someone who, when I was county executive, had to oversee local elections, I got a pretty good idea how elections work. But when I saw what happened in 2020, when I saw people like myself and others who were just speaking out against it, but we were ostracized and vilified and marginalized because we would say, hey, we have to stop this steal, or we have to stop the irregularities. There is something going on here. There's a dead cat on the end of this line. And for the President of the United States, or anybody, to call the Secretary of State's office and their phone call to be secretly taped, and then all of a sudden you've been indicted because you want to challenge the elections. Wait a minute. We're not Cuba. We're not Venezuela. We have the right to protest for our rights. We have the right to hold our public officials, especially those election officials, accountable. And you saw we became a police state. I mean, 19 people were indicted because they spoke out about voting irregularities. And here you are, you have the president on the phone, you have his lawyers, the Secretary of State on the phone, his lawyers. If anybody said anything wrong, you had lawyers say, hey, we can't say this, we can't say that. But to clandestinely to secretly tape that recording, and then for a district attorney to say, oh, we're going to indict, hey, we have a RICO case, really a RICO case, then you have a hell of a lot more people that you should have indicted, because thousands and thousands of Georgians felt like that election has some serious irregularities.
There's no doubt.
And to the point, you've seen more recently, where the state election, the Fulton County Election Board attorney says at a state election board meeting, yes, we admit it, we did not have the proper legal signatures. Matter of fact, there were no signatures on those tabulators, which is required by law by the Secretary of State's office. And for Gabe Sterling, who's the number 2 guy who ran that, with Raffensperger, to say, we don't have, we ran a perfect election. No, there was not a perfect election. That election has too many inquiries. And the federal government right now have 2 cases, one against the Fulton County commissioners and Fulton County elections, to review those ballots that's been locked away in a warehouse for about 5 years. They can't even get access to those ballots. How do you do a proper audit? Also, there's another lawsuit as it relates to getting access to voter file through the Secretary of State's office. And so when you say why I'm running, why did I want to run, I see our elections office being run amok. I see where we're looking like we're a third world country. My background, my experience, having served 12 years actually in the legislature, knowing my way around that body, knowing my way around elections, having served and oversaw elections at the local level, I believe my background, my experience, and my desire and willingness to bring things into the sunshine to make sure that we restore public trust is not there right now, Tug. It has been eroded. And every day you're seeing more and more things happening. And so just recently, another report, about 3,000 people with the same address that was registered and cast votes in Georgia. With the same address?
That should have maybe gotten some attention.
Should have gotten some attention.
Somebody should have noticed that.
At least it's a glaring, there's something going on here. And so people they want to feel like their votes are free, fair, and transparent, and that's not happening. So we are definitely running. I want to make sure that the Secretary of State's office remain the firewall as it comes to election integrity.
The phone call that you talked about, the Raffensperger Trump phone call, not only that, just to let that leak. I mean, the fact that became a public phone call, that seems way out of line to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a Freedom of Information Act would have given you that, I suppose, but it didn't seem like that on the surface.
Well, first of all, let's look at the intent. Why do you want to have, if you want to record the phone call, then make a public announcement, okay, to everybody that's on the phone, just as a matter of record, so we won't get anything out of context. This phone call will be recorded. But no, one side knew what they were doing,
sure.
And like you said, that call was leaked to the media. It was leaked out. It became a big deal. And what happened as a result of it? Matter of fact, if you listen to the phone call, the Washington Post had to retract their statement because they got it wrong. But if you listen to the phone call, there was no quid pro quo. The president can say, what about freedom of speech? Look, he can say anything he wants to. He said, look, we had 11,771
I need
votes.
You to find
I need
11,
you to find. But you know how many times people contest that? But here's what's interesting. In DeKalb County, during that same process, there was a lady who was running for DeKalb County commissioner. It was 4 people on the ballot. She came in last place. She contested it because even on her own precinct, she didn't get a vote from her and her husband. So when they did a recount, she went from last place to first place, winning it out without a runoff.
I recall that.
So when you say there's nothing wrong with our elections, those are the things that in the aggregate make people feel like, wait a minute, it's just too much going on here.
It does.
The irregularities.
And then you talk about the Fulton County thing. That was 315,000 votes.
315,000 votes.
That'd be enough to change an election outcome.
But you know what? If you set aside the outcome for those who want to say, oh, you just want to help Trump. But wait a minute.
Maybe Biden won by 315,000 more.
But the ballots themselves, if they were not checked off in accordance with the statute or the rules and regs, that makes those ballots invalid.
That's right.
So when if it was okay to do it, then anybody can just say, going forward, we don't have to sign the ballots. We just say it's a clerical error.
That's right.
They call it a clerical error. That's nothing but a term that the lawyer gave you to keep from admitting we screwed up. I started to use the F-bomb, but we screwed up.
You held back. I love it. Keeping us in good form with the FCC.
A clerical error?
Yeah.
You're supposed to have a supervisor and other poll workers to sign those tabulators. 315,000.
That's a lot.
That makes them invalid, doesn't it?
But VJ, do you think it happens on both sides, right, over the years in elections? And because I'm trying to think of how does this how do we stop?
How do we correct it?
How do we correct it?
Well, actually, See, that's why elections should not be about partisanship.
Agreed.
Let's take that out of it. Do I think that we've had some election irregularities? Sure, we have. We've heard about them, both Democrat and Republican.
Right.
But
going back to 2016.
Going back before 2016, we've had issues. Yeah. Going back to the hanging Chad, we had issues.
In 2000.
But the fact of it is, I think another thing that sort of ate away at that credibility is the paper ballots. And if you look at Dominion machines, if you look at how they do audits based on images. You have the image of the ballot, not the actual ballot. That's why you're seeing people want us to come back with paper ballots. In other words, we can always work to secure our election. There's never 100% worth of a perfect election. You know what I'm saying? So you always want to see how can we make it where it's easy to vote and hard to cheat. And it's not always about cheating. Sometimes people do make mistakes, but there has to be accountability. You just don't just discount it as a clerical error. No, somebody should have been fined. Somebody should have been in jail. If you can indict the president because he said, find me 11,771 votes, which is not something to indict because there was no quid pro quo. Where was the quid pro quo? That's free speech. But you can't go and indict someone who didn't sign off on these ballots like they were supposed to sign off on these ballots. Or you can't indict someone that had all these folks register. What group registered all these people at one particular address? But they made it partisan. Why? Because it was President Trump. You had a district attorney that made it partisan. You had other officials who made it partisan. It should have been about free election. You know what's interesting? Stacey Abrams said what? There's voter fraud when she lost her election. But did she get indicted?
Nope.
She didn't get indicted. So a lot of things happened there. Even, too, a lot of people don't know the settlement agreement between Stacey Abrams and the Secretary of State and Gabe Sterling and the Attorney General, it actually changed how we do certain things as it relates to elections. The Constitution is clear. Only the members of the Georgia General Assembly can change election laws. You can't do it through the executive branch. During COVID, we saw through the executive branch where they changed how you tabulate certain voters, but you also saw the drop boxes. The drop boxes were nowhere in the state statute. So they came up with these drop boxes and said, okay, we're going to put these drop boxes out there. They were never defined as a precinct by the Georgia General Assembly, which they should have been. Even that was unconstitutional. And so when you look at that, there's a case where they came up with the rules. All drop boxes must be on either city or county property. I know at least one that was on private property. Well, that makes it illegal being on private property. Are those ballots valid? And so those irregularities come back to the whole thing you were talking about earlier. Did it happen? Has it happened on the other partisan watch? I'm sure it probably has. The fact of it is, we shouldn't look at it like that. We should just make sure that people know their vote is going to be counted. It's going to be counted accurately. It's going to be in accordance with the law, and that this irregularities, we're not just going to turn an eye on it or turn our head around based on what party who committed that type of unacceptable voting behavior, and so that's what concerns me. So that's why I'm running, because you know what? I'm not afraid of the media. I'm not afraid of one side or the other side. I am there to make sure that the people of Georgia have confidence in our voting system and the type apparatus we use, and that we're going to follow the law. And when that doesn't happen, then there's got to be some accountability.
No question about it.
It's a management issue, too. A lot of it's a management issue, poor management.
And leadership.
And that's why, when I look at, and I'm not here to pick on a particular opponent, but Gabe Sterling, who was there, who oversaw that, the chief operating officer, who went on these liberal talk shows. He became the darling of CNN and all these others just because he stood up against Trump. And now he's running as a GOP member to be the Secretary of State when he was part of the problem. So we need a clean house. And again, I don't attack people personally. I just look at their record, where they are. He was the chief operating officer. He oversaw those elections. He was responsible for them. He was the one who defended and said, hey, we didn't have any issues. He was the one, even after we found out these 315,000 votes that were not signed off on, why didn't you just come and admit, okay, we did it wrong here? And there's got to be some accountability, got to be some heads being turned. But to say, oh, no.
Everything's good.
Clerical error, no.
Everything's on the up and up.
No.
That's the thing, I think, Daniel.
That's what erodes public trust.
Well, right, and that's how I look at it. It's like it's a black and white situation. Like he said, there's certain things that you're just not going to be able to look past, but you got to do your fact checking. And that's where you.
Yeah, there's right and wrong, and it's as simple as that. Do you believe Vernon, that it's possible to take the partisanship out of the election process when you become Secretary of State if you're elected?
You know, here's what's interesting about me. I got a really unique background. Did I tell you I was black, by the way? Did I tell you all that?
You didn't bring it up.
I've been a Democrat.
Yes, sir.
I've always been conservative, but I've been a Democrat. And
Well, that used to be a thing.
That was a thing. That jersey didn't fit anymore, so I went back to the grand old party, the party of Lincoln. I don't want it to be partisan. I've served on both sides, and I know it's hard to take politics out of politics.
It is.
But that Secretary of State's office
Should be able to.
you should. That's the one place it should not be no partisan politics played.
You're absolutely right.
You know, that's the one place.
I just don't know how.
And so here's how we do it. First of all, I've got to work with the Democrat Party. I have to show them in every way I can, look, everything that I am doing, all my intentions are to make sure that you as a Democrat, that when your voters go there and vote for you, that your votes, their votes are going to be counted, and your vote for you, whatever, that you feel comfortable with this election. And these are things we're trying to do legislative. Some I can do administratively, but some has required legislature approval. Then I have to go to the Republicans and to say the same thing. But more importantly, I have to go to the public by holding public hearings. When we get ready to go to a new voting apparatus, they need to know as much about that new voting system, how it works. I need to see how they feel about it. I need to educate them. Education is a big part of it because a lot of times facts don't get out there. There are some things called misinformation and you know, all that. So the Secretary of State, if I do my job, meet the constitutional requirements, and get out there and have those conversations with the stakeholders, meaning the voters and those at the legislative body that has to change the law, yes, I can make a difference. Yeah, I can restore that faith. We have to do that. But I can't do it saying, hey, I'm a Republican. No,
Sure.
When I walk in that room with those voters, I'm here, I'm your Secretary of State. Yeah, I may have been elected as a Republican, but nowhere in the Constitution and the duties and responsibilities and the oath of a Secretary of State does it put anything in there about whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican.
I'm an American.
I'm an American. I'm a Georgian. All right? And your vote counts. That's all that matters.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You mentioned the voting system. Would you be in favor of changing that? I know there's been a lot of debate about that.
Yeah. So let me say this, too. There are about two primary vendors out there, Dominion and Vanguard. Neither one of them are perfect. Let's be clear about that. Neither one of them are perfect. You would think we can track a package around the world, but we
To
can't.
To the second. Like when you order from Amazon, you can literally log on and figure out where it is at any moment.
At any moment. And we can't track ballots. So, but again, there are only limited providers out there, vendors out there.
Right.
Whatever, I know in Georgia, the feel for the most part, really on both sides, is to go back to paper ballots. What my job would be is, if we were to go back, my job is to make the best recommendations to the Georgia General Assembly because they make that decision ultimately.
Sure.
Because there's a financial cost. Like the ones we changed out, that was $150 million. But those vendors, if I were doing a procurement process, I would require that those vendors go around the state and hold public meetings and give the public opportunity to understand what your system does, how it does. Let them try to tear that damn thing apart. Let them get comfortable with it on how it works. And to take that feedback from the public and make recommendations to the Georgia General Assembly based on what I heard the public saying they like this machine or they don't like this machine or what they like about both. It's not going to be a perfect machine out there, but it's important that the people get involved first. We did it the other way around. Gabe Sterling and Secretary of State did the other way around. They went and put these machines out here. Now y'all come and vote for them. As opposed to let's put these machines out here so you can see what these machines are, how they work. What do you think about
reverse engineer this
reverse
thing.
Engineer, but you got to start with the people first.
That's right.
And so what they did, they just pushed something out on the people and then give the people a chance to have input. And we got to do it the other way around. But I do believe still, yes, we have to. I think one of the measures of going back to public trust is going back to an original paper ballot and not an image.
Me too, because I've heard law enforcement, and Daniel, you probably heard this as well, where law enforcement says the only good smartphone is one that's broken because somebody can get into it.
Yeah.
If you can get into the most incredible technology, I mean, we have a computer in our pocket. And we've seen this with special ops, being able to turn on cell phones in caves across the world.
Yeah.
That leads me to believe if you can do that, you can get into anything.
You can get into anything.
And so that's the fear that I have, and I think regardless of party, I think most people are like, wait a minute. If you can get into my phone at any time, you can get into the voting ballot machine anytime.
You know what, Tug? And by the way, your listeners, they can always go to my social media. I'm on FaceTime, Vernon Jones for Georgia, and I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. I'm out there. You can find me, but
you cover a lot of territory.
I cover a lot of territory. but I'll say
Vernon for GA on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, Vernon for GA on Twitter. That's right. But to go back though to your point too, one of the things we really have to understand is people just want faith in their government.
That's it.
You know,
and that's regardless of party.
Regardless of party. People want faith. They want to believe that you're there for them, that you're fighting for them and not for yourself. And so that's why you see low ratings among politicians. And then when you throw the media in there, they become so biased in many regards. So a lot of fake news out there. But at the end of the day, Tug, I'll say this. Georgia is a great state to live in.
Amen.
Some of the greatest people on earth live here in Georgia.
Amen.
They deserve someone who's going to fight for them, whether it's me, you, or anybody else, but they deserve somebody. If you're going to hold public office, you're going to fight for them. You're going to put their interests first. And many Georgians feel like what happened this election, it's been swept under the rug. Even when you look at the liberal media now in Metro Atlanta area, they don't want to talk about those 315,000 ballots.
Gone. That were
not signed. It's gone. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to sweep it under the rug. Again, it goes back to that Trump derangement, I guess. But they want to sweep it under the rug. We can't fix it until we find out what happened. And I'm determined, if I'm elected by the people of Georgia, I am going to go in there. I'm going to find that dead cat on the other end of that line. I'm going to expose it, not to hurt anybody, but there has to be the truth. The truth has to be told, and then we have to hold some people accountable.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
It's the best disinfectant.
I've heard it over and over and
it's
over
the
again.
Best disinfectant.
It is. But because you can't, I don't believe then you can ask people to trust you if they feel like something happened and it was never resolved.
It was. Because it's never resolved until it's resolved. So my job, like I said, I'm not trying to relitigate or relive what happened in 2020.
But figuring out is a different story.
Figure out what happened, bring the truth to light, and just make sure it doesn't happen again. And to just tuck your tail between your legs and just deny. That's the first thing. You know, one of the worst whippings I ever got when I was a country boy, my daddy had us, me and my younger brothers, we were in the field planting peas. They had these long rows. It was hot. My dad said, I'm going back to the house, and y'all boys go ahead and finish up. Well, shoot, my dad wasn't gone 30 minutes. We got to the edge of the row, and we saw the wooded area. We took those peas, and we threw them in the woods. We went back home. My dad said, y'all finished already? Yes, sir, we done everything. We got it done.
Done up.
About 3 weeks later, my dad was waiting at the end of the road when the bus came, and he took me and my brothers, and he marched us out there into those woods, and he said, boys, y'all see what's out here? And we were like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
He said, now, I'm not going to whip you. I'm not going to whip you because you threw them out there. I'm going to whip you for the cover-up. That's the crime, the cover-up. You lied.
Yeah.
You lied.
And that, what they always say, the cover-up's worse than the crime?
The cover-up is worse than the crime.
That's what I've heard my whole life.
And do I believe there was some cover-up when it happened in our election? Absolutely. And I tell you another thing, too, to my point earlier when I mentioned about the drop boxes never being written into law. If you notice, the very next year in 2021, they wrote the drop boxes into law. Well, if it was legal, why did you have to write it into law? I knew right then it wasn't. That just verified what I was saying. That those drop-off boxes were never defined as precincts by the legislature. It was designed by the executive branch, and only the legislative branch can address it. And those are the kind of things we got to clean house and get it all out there.
Vernon Jones, our guest here on Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. When we come back, I want to talk about, because you brought up your daddy, I want to talk about the mentors in your life, because it sounded like you had a strong one there. Yeah. Man, the guy that made sure you did things the right way. My dad the same way. He didn't rule with an iron fist necessarily, but he expected the best out of me always. He expected me to do the right thing always. So I want to talk about those mentors you've had in your life, and then leadership under pressure, because that job you're about to you're asking for folks to vote for you for comes with a lot of pressure. but I feel like you've probably battled some pressure over the years.
Well, I've been battle tested, I can tell you that.
That's what I say.
He's battle tested.
First chance, second chance, third chance, fourth chance.
All the chances.
There you go. We'll talk about that next on Justice Unfiltered here on Extra 106.3.
Now back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart. Our guest today, Vernon Jones, who's running for Georgia's Secretary of State position and asking for your vote. You can find him at Vernon4GA. At Vernon4GA, Forga, on
Twitter.
Twitter, yes, thank you. Yeah. Now called X. I still get caught up in there because some people call it Twitter, some people call it X. I always try to say X, formerly known as Twitter, which seems like a mouthful, but that's where you can find Vernon there. And y'all have known each other a long time and have experienced so much in the last several years. And Daniel, there's a lot of pressure in your line of work. Yeah.
Oh, pressure? Yeah.
Oh my
well,
gosh.
I mean, just it's the risk, right?
Well, which creates pressure,
Yeah.
I would imagine, right?
Yeah. A lot of risk.
No question about it. Vernon, you've done so many things over the years and been part of so much. Does the pressure of Secretary of State, does that sway you? Does that are you nervous about that? I mean, because you battle tested.
Well, first of all, I think I was saying earlier, give me a person who, if you're going to put someone in a foxhole with me, give me somebody who's been through something, someone who've had to deal with adversity.
Give me someone with some calluses on their hands.
Give me someone with some calluses on their hands. Give me someone who has dirty fingernails. They've been toiling in the vineyard. When I look at the Secretary of State's office, let's put in perspective. I'm the only candidate that actually ran a government, a full-fledged government. Not a chairman, but I was a chief executive officer. I ran a law enforcement agency, fire and rescue, planning, development, economic development, business, license, all that. I've including elections. So I know that my budget was about $3 billion. Secretary of State's budget is about $45 million. Big difference. Mm-hmm. I managed about 7,000 employees as a chief executive. The Secretary of State's office has about 345 employees. Wow. So it's a big difference. I've been a chief administrator. So day one, I can hit the ground running. And here's what's so important. Not only can I hit the ground running day one, operating that government or that agency, but at the same time, with my 12 years in the legislature, I know a lot of things are going to have to go through that legislature. Not only my budget, but also if I want to make new legislative changes. I know the leadership there. I've served with those guys, both House and the Senate. I know how they think, how legislators think. I even know the executive branch, how that works. So having that existing relationship day one, I know there are idiosyncrasies. I know how you have to go through the process to be effective. At the same time, through executive orders, I can do things administratively to fix a lot of this. And so I think people want someone that can hit the ground running day one, not afraid of the media, because the media want to come and stick a microphone in front of your face. You're going to cut and run. No, I'm going to stand up for what I believe is right, putting taxpayers first. And so I've been battle tested. I've been through it all. And you want someone, like I said earlier, if you have a weak governor and a weak lieutenant governor, you want a Secretary of State that got the backbone like steel.
That's right.
Nobody's never said that they've seen me back away, back off, back down from any fight, that I believe is the right thing to do. And so I look forward to it.
The pressure doesn't.
No,
yeah.
That's not pressure. I've seen pressure before. That's not pressure. Pressure is when my mom and dad come at me with that switch. That's pressure. That's some pressure on that farm. That was pressure.
My Grandma Brown, she used to make me go pick my own hickory stick.
You understand.
Woo, Lord, there wasn't nothing worse than having to go pick out your own.
That's pressure.
She's about to wear you out with it,
that's
too.
Pressure.
Goodness gracious. But that's, that's part of the game. And having somebody that's battle tested is so important. You bring up your mom and daddy. Let's talk about your mentors, the people that have shaped you as a man and then as a public servant.
Yeah. Well, obviously, let me start at home first. My mom and my dad, we were farmers, small business, and my dad worked at a textile mill too. But my dad He was a military man, served in 3rd Army under General Patton, so it was structured there. So, I was reared with that type of environment. My mom, she stood up for her rights and her lefts. All right, and so let me be clear. Yeah, so I came from a family of strong, disciplined parents who didn't believe that the government owes you anything. You had to work hard and pray hard.
Meritocracy.
And yes, meritocracy, no question. Next level, I would say my first grade teacher. Obviously, she's the one who taught me my ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and that's how I know what I know now. I can read and write because of her and critical thinking. When I look at beyond that, when I look at General Patton, that Patton, I love that man because he didn't take no prisoners. He stood for what he believed in, and he was willing to go against the grain. I like that strong leadership like that. Clearly, he's a huge mentor. But then I like the Colin Powell effect too, because here's a man who's very diplomatic, and he was credible. He had integrity. And so,
no one ever questioned that about.
No
Colin
one
Powell.
ever questioned that. But Condoleezza Rice, I think she's one of the smartest, most well-tempered.
Talking my language now.
I mean, she is
my favorite.
She is where she is. And I got to tell you, that's one of the reasons I like President Trump. President Trump, I mean, he's strong. When you saw what he just did in Venezuela. Now, everybody else talk about doing something, but President Trump goes and get it done.
Yeah.
And so I'm not here to talk about what we'll do in that elections office or the Secretary of State's office, but go in there and get it done. So I like that getting it done type of attitude.
Yeah, Daniel, it's something you have to do in your own business. Every
I
day you got to hit the ground running.
I live and get it done. That's it. There's no other way for me. So,
but that's the way it has to be for everybody.
Yeah,
your business isn't successful if you don't.
That's right.
The government doesn't function the way it's supposed.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, there's not many agencies of the government at any level that I'm like, yep, that's that. I'm ready to support them. I know they're going to do a good job. It's actually the exact opposite most often. I'm like, poor leadership, poor decision making, whatever. And I think most Americans, most Georgians feel that way. And again, that's irregardless of political party.
Yeah, and we're not perfect. If you make a mistake, you say, okay, I made a mistake. You own up to it.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that really irks me, I guess. All the mistakes that were made and the mismanagement in our Secretary of State's office with Gabe Sterling and others in this election, the election of 2020, and subsequent since then, all the things that come out. Just admit it, because people are forgiving people.
They are.
But when
Americans
you continue to
nature.
cover it up, that's what creates, and I should say erodes, the opinion of public trust. And so I'm telling you, the country, the world is looking at Georgia. So goes Georgia, so goes this country. I want to be clear about that. And so I want us to be a leader in elections and not a follower. And we have that grand opportunity to do that. So it's a critical 2026 coming up. There are going to be a lot of different elections. And I hope on my side of the aisle that they I understand President Trump would not be on the ballot. But I can tell you this: if President Trump does not get reelected, I should say if the House goes Democrat, let me say that because he's not up for reelection. But if the House goes Democrat, the U.S. House, they are going to impeach him for a third time.
Absolutely right.
Because they have Trump derangement. It's kind of funny. All those Democrats who were talking about how horrible Maduro is and
last year and for the last 10 years.
Now they're protecting this criminal, the one that
it's the No Kings marchers out there saying in defense.
I thought they didn't want a king.
That's right. Or a dictator.
It's that syndrome. But again, but my job still though, if I'm fortunate to get elected, is not so much serving those who didn't elect me, but also earning support of those that didn't elect me by doing a good job. And so I welcome everybody across the aisle in the name of free, fair, and transparent elections.
Vernon Jones for GA.com. Vernon Jones for GA.com is the website. If you want to find him on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now on X, you can find him Vernon for GA. Vernon for GA is his handle there. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate your passion.
Well, let me tell you, being on the show, Tug, with you and my good friend Daniel here, I call him sometimes Daniel, but the fact of it is, you all providing a forum that I can get my message out and people can hear me out there. And those who want to you mentioned earlier, my website is Vernon Jones. I actually make it a little simpler, Vernon Jones, SOS 2026.com, Vernon Jones, SOS 2026.com. Or you can email me. I like emails. In the middle of the night, I'm returning emails. Friends of Vernon Jones at Gmail. Very simple. Friends of Vernon Jones at Gmail. But I thank you guys. And I appreciate the Dickey brothers and them making this platform available. You all are educating the public, and it's giving them opportunity, again, to get to know me and hear from me directly. And so keep doing a good job. I love to come back and talk to you guys.
We're going to have you back soon.
You have me back.
Yes, sir. Always
Yeah.
welcome. Daniel, another great show, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, you can't beat it. Make sure you check out Vernon and consider voting for him. Learn more about him at his website that he just gave out, and that's going to do it for us here on Justice Unfiltered.
This is an extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.